this week has just been a lot more training. One of the main things that we're wanting to get under control is his barking throughout the day whenever he hears a noise outside, particularly if there's anyone on the front porch dropping off a package or anything, he loses it. So I've been working really hard with him on knocking and doorbells, actually. For the first couple weeks, just even if I ring the doorbell, he absolutely lost it. But this week we've made a lot of progress where I can ring the doorbell and it bothers him. You can see that he kind of flicks his ears and flinches a little bit, but he does understand that he's supposed to not bark. And with the motivation of a treat and kind of the expectation that it's about to happen, he will stay quiet. So that's definitely progress over what we had before. He's doing really good here, and I hope that eventually we'll be able to get to the point where even when that sound is random, he can also stay calm. He has been doing better with sounds outside. It's definitely still not perfect, but I can see some progress, and I hope that will be getting better over the next couple of weeks. Something else I've done is put up a barrier here in this main room where he spends most of his time, so that when my roommate or boyfriend come home, he can't run up to the door to greet them. He has to wait for them to come to him. This is something that the trainer suggested, that even if he's not being aggressive towards them, if he's practicing charging the door, that's not something we want to encourage. So having that barrier allows him to practice, waiting and letting the new person come to him, whether it's someone he knows or someone that he doesn't know. The next thing that I've been working with him on is really just kind of obedience. The vet and trainer both pointed out that there's really no point to put him in highly stressful situations and expect anything to go well if he doesn't have a really, really solid foundation of obedience in non-stressful situations. And while he is generally pretty obedient at home, he's nowhere near perfect. So I'm going to just continue to work and try to get his obedience in the house in quiet and peace to be pretty much perfect before I start trying to take him back out in the neighborhood or have people over or anything like that. He's doing better with Shake. He's allowing me to lift his paw off the ground. I'm now giving him the opportunity to lift his paw by setting my hand in front of his paw and waiting before I pick it up. He still has not ever lifted his paw on his own, but I hope that's something that we'll see in the next couple of weeks. Because currently, he just thinks that Shake means, oh, I have to let her lift my paw now. And I'm not really entirely sure how to get over that hurdle of, no, Shake means lift your paw by yourself. So a command that I've been trying to teach him here in this video is look at me, which just means I'll put something that he really wants on the floor, like a treat or something, or if there'll be a sound in the other room, and he'll be looking at that, and I'll tell him to look at me. He ignores me pretty much the whole time, but once he finally looks at me, then I will give him a treat. He still really doesn't understand what it means, but I'm going to keep working with him on that a lot over the next week or two, and I hope that he'll pick it up, because that is something pretty important when we're outside, even if just in the backyard or the front yard. He gets really distracted and just completely loses focus and will not pay attention to me. So even if I'm telling him to sit or lay or anything, he doesn't even hear me because he's so distracted. So I really think that look at me command will make a huge difference once I can get him to be pretty solidly responsive to it. The next command we're going to be working with here in a minute is the muzzle command. In last week's video, I believe he was doing this really well, but we went to the vet this past weekend for him to get a couple of shots, and so that involved him having to wear the muzzle for an extended period of time. So as you can see here, he is much more shy of the muzzle than he was before, just because he had that negative association once again. So I'm kind of expecting that every time we go to the vet or anywhere where he has to have the muzzle, it's going to set us back a good bit, and he's going to be afraid of the muzzle for a while. But this is definitely not as much regression as I thought it would be. He still is willing to bop his nose into it a little bit, so I'm really happy to see that. In the afternoon, he is really sleepy. Like you can see here, he's just kind of dozing, closing his eyes even while I'm petting him. This has become a great time for me to cut mats out of his fur. I still have to be really, really careful and just spend a lot of time petting him and touching him without, tugging on anything, because if I, mess with it too much, it'll wake him up and he'll jump up and run off. But if I'm really, really slow and patient, I've been able to cut quite a few mats out, and so yeah, that's been a really great time while he's sleepy. I'm also working with him on leash training just in the backyard. He's still very distracted outside because he wants to run, he wants to play, there's noises, there's things to do, things to see, things to smell, but he definitely does much better than he would out in the neighborhood. So I'm going to try to keep working with him and try to get his leash training really, really solid here in the backyard, and then I'll move on to the front yard before I start focusing on doing this anywhere away from the house. So yeah, overall this week has just been just continued training, trying to get a really solid foundation of basic kind of obedience and him understanding what I want from him and how to keep his attention on me. I think it'll be quite some time before we can tackle any of the bigger issues like aggression or just his kind of fear and anxiety being out away from the house. But I'm trying to kind of adjust my expectations on the timeline there and be a lot more patient and really spend as much time necessary to get him really, really solid just in our own home, and then in the backyard, and then in the front yard, and then down the street, and kind of slowly work my way up instead of expecting him to be able to do all of those things all at once. But he's doing great.